Hello everyone and welcome to your it's the 18th, isn't it, PHP tutorial in my series of PHP tutorials. Well, to start off, erase this whole for loop. Now declare a variable called we're going to call it I, and just set it equal to 0. Now create a while loop, while I less than 10 I plus plus if I equals 5, continue, echo I dot br. Okay, so this is the whole lot of code, and well, not a whole lot of code, and actually it is pretty simple. Well, it looks pretty simple. You should know what all of this does, except the continue statement, of course. Well, I'm just going to explain what the loop does, and but not the continue statement. Well, first of all, we have a variable called I, and then set equal to 0, and we say that as long as the variable I is less than 10, keep iterating this loop. And the first thing that this loop will do is that it'll increment I by 1, then it'll check for, okay, now that I has been incremented by 1, is it equal to 5? If it is, then use the continue keyword, and if it isn't, well, then just continue to this line right here that'll print out the value of I and go to the next line. So well, that's what this loop does. So now try and save it and go into your web browser and go into localhost/helloworld.php and make sure that your XAMPP control panel is running and that the Apache service is running. Now reload it, and as you see, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, well, if you take a close look at this, you'll figure that something's wrong. Well, like, you may think like, okay, my computer may have made a little bug in here or something, or a little error, because clearly it didn't count this right. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Computer, well, you needed 5. You know that? Well, the computer does know that, but we told it to jump, to skip the 5 actually. So, and that's what I'm going to explain to you right now. Well, as I said before, we have a variable called I, and it is set equal to 0. And then we say that as long as the variable I is less than 10, increment I by 1, and then check for, okay, if I is equal to 5, then continue. If it isn't equal to 5, well, then just print out the value of I and go to the next line. Well, so now it's time to explain what the continue statement does. Well, the first thing this loop will do is that it'll increment I by 1. So imagine that I is now equal to 4 because this loop has been iterated 4 times, and therefore it printed out 4. And then it reloads the loop again, and then I is equal to 5, and then when it gets to this statement, oh, well, I is equal to 5, so now it's time for me to call the continue statement. And the continue statement will skip everything typed below the continue statement. So it'll skip this action and go right to the top. So, well, it'll increment I by 1, and then once it hits 5, it'll say continue, and then the computer will know that, okay, I've called the continue statement. Now skip everything typed below the continue statement, and therefore it'll skip this and therefore not print out the value of I. So I will not know 5 will not be printed out because it'll skip, when I is equal to 5, it'll skip this, and therefore 5 will not be printed out. So it'll go directly to the top again. That's what the continue statement does, or keyword does. So we say that if the variable I is equal to 5, then continue, then skip everything typed below the continue statement and go right to the next iteration, which means that, okay, forget everything typed below this continue statement, go to the top. and the top will increment I by 1, so that now I is equal to 6, and then I'll say, is I equal to 5? No, it's equal to 6, so I'll do this again, and therefore print out 6. So if you change this to bigger than equal sign, saving it, going into your web browser and reloading this page, it will say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it will not print out anything more. And that's because that, imagine again that I is equal to 4, and then I will be incremented to 5, and then it'll realize that, okay, if I is bigger than or equal to 5, continue. So if when I hit 5, skip this and go right to this. And now it'll increment I to 6, and then it'll say this statement is still true because I was supposed to do this continue statement even though I is bigger than 5 too, and 6 is bigger than 5, and therefore it'll also call the continue statement here. So it'll say, okay, once I hit 5, do this and go to the next iteration. Okay, now I'm equal to 6. Well, do this again. So skip to the next iteration, and therefore, it'll skip the rest of the numbers. And this is a little bit complicated probably, but I hope that you understood it, and if you didn't, then tell me and I'll help you with the part you didn't understood. So I'll see you in my next tutorial. What the? I thought I finished off this tutorial. This happened to me last tutorial too. This is embarrassing. I better finish it off now. Panic!